Welcome to this video tutorial. I'm your host Barna Reshko, and today I'm going to guide you through the basics of Robot Monitoring Suite. In this video, you will learn all the basic skills that you need to install, deploy, and use Robot Monitoring Suite. In short, with Robot Monitoring Suite, you can access the Teach pendant via the cloud, backup files from the robot controller, and remotely view live video stream of the robot cell if you have attached the video camera to the robot. The robot monitoring system is composed of three main components: the PC software located on your PC and downloaded from the description of this video, the firmware deployed on the robot controller, which is also included in the download package, and the robot monitoring cloud server connecting the robot controller to the PC. Robot Monitoring Suite requires a Windows-based operating system. All Nachi and OTC-Daihen robot controllers are supported from the AX series. The robot needs to be hooked up to the internet, and TCP ports 80 and 53 and ICMP protocol shall be enabled in your local firewall. So let's start with the installation of Robot Monitoring Suite. Installation is actually quite easy. First, download the latest software package from the link in the description and install it on your PC. If you don't already have a user account with Robot Monitoring Suite, go ahead and create one using the PC software. Before continuing, you have to make sure that the robot controller is ready for deploying Robot Monitoring Suite. Using your Teach pendant, set up the TCP IP based on your local area network configuration. Make sure to enter the domain name servers. You can use, for example, Google DNS server at 8.8.8.8, but any other public or local DNS server is also fine. Go to the FTP settings and enable the FTP service, allow anonymous account, and grant read-write permission. After this, press complete. After setting up the TCP IP, you will have to restart the robot controller. After restarting your robot controller, make sure to connect your PC to the same local area network with the robot controller. You can test the connection by a ping command or an FTP connection. Using the Robot Monitoring Suite PC software, log in with your username and password, go to the Deploy menu and select your manufacturer and follow the instructions. Enter the IP address of the robot controller and the license key, and after this, press Deploy. When the deployment process has finished, restart the robot controller. After restarting, the robot controller gets a new ID from the Robot Monitoring Suite server, and it is added to your contact list, and your robot is ready to use. You receive a notification and an email about the success of the deployment process. Configuring the internet connection on the robot controller might be challenging due to local network and firewall configurations. By pressing Enable R followed by Enable FN on the Teach pendant, the Robot Monitoring Suite information panel pops up, including information about the internet connection. Also, you can see the Robot Monitoring Suite revision number, the robot controller's new Robot Monitoring Suite ID, which you can use to refer to this robot controller from your PC application. Now, let's go quickly over the Robot Monitoring Suite PC software. If you start the software, you can see the user interface is split into four components. In the top left corner, you can see the dynamic part of the GUI, which contains different kind of contents. For example, the login page, the remote Teach pendant screens, the camera image, or the file tree of the robot controller's file system, or you can see other forms where you can interact with the Robot Monitoring Suite. In the bottom left corner, you can see the device list, which actually contains your robot controllers, your robots, and your cameras attached to it. You can start the monitoring session by opening a robot controller by clicking the small triangle on the left side and then double-clicking on the device, either camera or robot, that you would wish to connect. On the top right corner, you can see the keyboard panel. The keyboard panel can be used to interact with the touch pendant by pressing the buttons. Also, you can see the buttons highlighted in blue when they are pressed either on the touch pendant or in the PC software. If you just hold your mouse cursor over one key, a tooltip will display you the hotkey for that particular button that you can use on your PC keyboard. You can use the jog buttons on the keyboard panel to move the robot arm if somebody is holding the deadman switch on the touch pendant. And also, when you navigate to a soft keyboard in the touch pendant, PC keyboard will appear, and in this situation you can use your keyboard to type directly into the touch pendant. This is actually a very useful feature because in many cases it is quite cumbersome to use the touch pendant touchscreen to type text into the robot controller, and you can just simply use your keyboard on the PC, and you can also paste from your PC's clipboard right into the touch pendant by pressing Ctrl V. And finally, on the lower right corner you can see the robot details panel, which includes different kind of information about the selected robot. For example, IP address, MAC address, the username of the person who is actually using the robot, the device type, what kind of robot is attached to this robot controller, the robot monitoring suite revision number, and the expiration of the license key. You can also use the field on the lower right side to enter a license key if you haven't done it at the deployment time. And finally, there is the menu bar where you can see some menu items. For example, you can sign out or change your password, or this is where you start the deployment process for your Nachi or OTC-Daihen robot controller, or you can access help, or you can use the small icon on the right side to sign out from robot monitoring suite. Now let's move on to the interesting part, how to remotely access a robot controller. There are two different kind of access modes. One is the cloud access, when you can access the robot controller remotely over the internet. In this case, the robot must be connected to the internet and it must be online, and also your PC software must be connected and must be online. In the other case, the LAN or local area network access, your robot controller may be offline, but your PC must be online to retrieve licensing information. And in this case, you can connect to your robot controller via the local area network. Once you double click on your robot, you can instantly access the touch pendant of your remote robot controller. It is very important that you don't need any on-site assistance for the remote monitoring session to start. You can use your mouse to navigate in the touch pendant. You can do practically everything that you can do from the touch pendant except for moving the robot, which is only available when somebody is physically holding the deadman switch of the touch pendant on site. It is possible to attach a camera to the robot controller. This way you can remotely survey the robot cell. The way to add the camera is that you press the plus button above the device list. The Add Device dialog will pop up in the main window where you can type the camera name, the camera URL from where the camera can grab a 640 x 480 pixel JPEG snapshot, and you have to select to which robot controller you want to attach the camera. After this, you can double click on the camera and you can see your robot remotely. Only one touch pendant or one camera can be viewed at a time. You have to switch back and forth between cameras and robot controller touch pendants. If you just deployed robot monitoring suite on a robot controller, but you don't already have a license key, that is not a problem. If you connect the robot controller through the LAN, the robot controller will be automatically issued a 30-day free trial license, which only can be used on the local area network. With this, you can verify that everything is working properly, or you can make demonstrations, or you can start up and commission your robot controller. Next, let's see how to back up files from a remote robot controller. The robot monitoring suite can help you download system files from the CF or CFast card in the robot controller. You can download files from a USB drive if there is any attached to the robot controller. To start the backup procedure, start the remote session by double-clicking your robot and then right-click on the main screen and select Backup. After a few seconds, you will see the list of all the files that are found on the robot controller. You can navigate in the file tree, and with the checkboxes you can select which files you wish to download. On the bottom you can see the total number of selected files. When you finished selecting the files, just click Backup and select the folder where the downloaded files should be saved. If you want to make a full backup of the robot controller remotely, it is recommended that you keep a USB pen drive constantly in your robot controller and use Robot Monitoring Suite to remotely perform a standard Nachi or OTC-Daihen backup procedure, with the USB pen drive being the target. After this standard backup procedure has finished, you can simply grab those files from the USB drive and save it on your PC. This way you can make a full standard backup without any on-site assistance or any help from any local staff. Now let's go to device management. By device we mean a robot or a camera. Robots are automatically scanned for LAN access except for FD19, or robots can be manually added for LAN access. This is required for FD19, or if for any reason you want to access a robot controller behind a network address translation or router or firewall. Press the green plus button and the Add Device dialog appears. From the device type you should select Robot and type the robot name, the robot description and the local area network IP address of the robot. And also select the target, which can be your local robots or it can be a black box if you have that hardware options, which is out of the scope of this course. Just click Add. And you can also remove a device by clicking the garbage bin button on the device list panel. You can also change the properties of the robot. If you start a remote monitoring session, right-click on the Teach Pendant screen and select Edit Properties. There you can change the robot name, the robot description, and also you can change the error codes that will trigger a video capture in case you are using the black box hardware. The details about this are out of the scope of this tutorial. You can also edit the camera properties by starting the remote monitoring on a camera and right-click and select Edit Properties. There you can change the camera name, you can change the frame rate of the camera, and also you can change the URL from which the camera will grab the images. In the next section I will explain how users are managed in the Robot Monitoring Suite. First, a new user has to register, after which he or she can log in to the system. Also, if you forgot your password, you can change it with the PC software. Access to robot controllers can be managed by a sharing and revoking mechanism. Each robot controller has owners and users. An owner is a user who can share and revoke a robot controller with other users. In your device list, you can see the robot controllers to which you have access. Click the Share button and select the robot controllers you wish to share. Enter the username or email address of the user you want to share with and select the sharing level. It can be another user or it can be another owner, and then press the Share button. To revoke, select the user on the right side and press the Revoke button, or just simply right-click on the user, and from the pop-up menu you can also select the Revoke command. This way you have full control about who can access your robot controller and who cannot, and this list can change in time. Nobody can access the robot controller who is not entitled. Finally, let's see how the Robot Monitoring Suite firmware can be updated remotely. It is possible that new revisions will be released of the Robot Monitoring Suite firmware, and in this case you don't need to travel to the robot controller and you don't need to be on site to update the firmware. To update the firmware, download the latest package from monitoringsuite.com, start a remote monitoring session on the robot controller, right-click and select Update Firmware from the context menu. Select the update package file that you just downloaded from the Robot Monitoring Suite website and wait until the upload is complete. After the upload is complete, you have to restart the Robot Monitoring Suite firmware. For this, you need specialist access to the Teach Pendant. You can have it by pressing R314 and enter the password 12345. After this, select the function R880 and select Restart. After restarting, the new version of the Robot Monitoring Suite firmware will start and it is ready to use. And finally, some troubleshooting considerations. Based on our experience, the most problems usually come from connecting the robot controller to the internet. You can verify the connection by pressing Enable R and Enable FN once the robot monitoring suite software is running on the robot controller. If you have issues, check the cabling and make sure that the right RJ45 socket is used. Check the IP settings in the robot controller. Either IP address, netmask, gateway address and domain name servers shall be set, or you can select to use a DHCP service if it is available on your local network. In the local firewall, make sure that the TCP ports 53 and 80 are cleared. If you have a protocol filter in the firewall, you should also disable it, because robot monitoring suite is not using HTTP protocol on TCP port 80, but it is using a special custom binary protocol. If your network administrator prefers, robot monitoring suite can also connect to the public server through TCP port 4300. In order to achieve this, you have to edit the work monitor config.ini file and add server port equals 4300 to the config.ini file. So if you have watched so far, thank you very much for your attention. I hope that this quick course is useful and it helps you to use robot monitoring suite, and I hope you will enjoy the software and it will be of great use in your work and in your professional life.